Shasky, can I ask you, and I can open up the good call, Manny, 888-957-9570. And I'm not here to judge how anybody feels about it. I may feel one way about it. You may feel one way about it. The callers in the text line and everybody else may feel it. But how much of an impact do you think Steve Wilks had by coming down from the booth to the sideline? Because we made a lot about that. And Steve Wilks had to check us all last Thursday saying, look, man, I think too much is being made of this. I need to communicate with the players, instant communication and whatnot. I'm not sure. Because honestly, in training camp, we discussed this. And it was funny. I remember this at the Hilton Hotel. I said, Shasky, it's going to be a difference. Wilks likes to coach in the booth. How would that impact his team? Now, this is back in training camp. Ultimately, I personally don't think it impacted much. I think players just need to make plays. That's my mindset. Players just need to play better, and the players did play better. But you know what? Maybe it did have an impact. What do you think? Did it have a big-time impact yesterday? 888-957-9570.
Can we start here? Process of elimination. Fans aren't the reason Steve Wilks is on the sideline.
Yep.
Fan pressure is not the reason why Steve Wilks is on the sideline. Players and whatever the staff decided. Would you agree?
Yep.
Okay. So if Shanahan and the players are demanding it, there was something to it. Was it the end-all, be-all? No. Did we make probably too much of it? Yes. But clearly, when you see Charvarius Ward and Steve Wilks talking and him with his arm around him in the third quarter and they're going back and forth, there's a tangible thing there. There's clearly something there. I think more the secondary players than the defensive line. Javon Hargrave in the postgame was like, I never, ever, ever talked to the DC during the game. I talked to my defensive line coach, whether I was in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, or with the Niners. He'll talk to Chris Kocurek. I never talked to the DC.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Hufanga said the exact opposite coming off the field. He goes, I like the instant feedback and being able to hear a little quip here and there on what I saw, what he saw very quickly. It's different when I got to grab the phone and call up because it's like, is it worth calling up there to talk to him about some little tiny nuance?
Right.
So to me, clearly the players thought it mattered a little, and I thought that the results were the results. And is it the end-all, be-all? No. But it helped them 1% more, and I'll take it, man. I think it coincided with them getting right on a variety of fronts, and I think you got to keep rolling with it.
Well, did Shanahan make a decision on because of the fan pressure? Or did he make a decision on it?
No, he doesn't make decisions on fan pressure.
Because of the media.
If that's the case,
I try to make decisions not based off of having to talk to you after the game. I try to make it on what I think's right for a team. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. But I'm not going to think about you until after the game, so then I can just deal with it.
They're not making decisions based off what Joe Shasky says or John_752 on Twitter or YouTube. Come on, Shanahan's too sophisticated for that. But Bonte, forget all the being on the sidelines. His scheme was better. I thought that his pre-snap, showing all these guys at the line against a young quarterback, not knowing if we were going to be in man, if we were going to be in zone, not knowing which guys were going to rush. I thought that was better. And then the other part was I thought Greenlaw looked way healthier.
Yeah, he did. He needed that bye week. He looked slow in Cincinnati, against Cincinnati. He looked slow. You think about Joe Mixon trucking him in the second quarter. He did not have that same swagger, that same thump to him against Cincinnati. Maybe you're just a tired football team. So, you know what? It's the whole sideline thing. I didn't make a big deal of it, but I remember discussing this in training camp. I said, look, there's going to be an adjustment here with Wilks in the booth. That's something to monitor. Now, it was such a small thing that we just flew by it. And then it was just hilarious after a 3-game losing streak. All of a sudden, the sideline, we need him down on the sideline. I was like, well, the first 5 games, nobody was saying anything. So I'm kind of with Steve Wilks, where he said last Thursday, it's a bit overblown. But you know what? Let me go down to the field to communicate with these guys. I'm still learning this defense, and I think it's a smart move. Now, it worked yesterday, but my big takeaway is the players just played better.
They did.
Bosa played like the guy we paid him to play like.
Yes, I agree.
That's my thing.
But in the last month, didn't it look like the combinations fit better? The coverage versus the pass rush and all that. You could say health. To me, they played a better brand of defense yesterday. What area was really weak yesterday? No. Okay, they threw 5 screens in a row. Well, then they took that away, and then what did they have?
Right.
They had nothing.
Yep.
Jacksonville really had nothing.
Right. No, they had nothing. And I think it was partly due to Bosa looking fresh. Armstead playing better.
Was that the best Bosa game of the year?
Oh, hands down.
Yeah, okay.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. I mean, it was a more impactful game he had, but Chase Young coming in. I thought Javon Hargrave. Welcome back, Javon Hargrave.
Thank you.
Welcome back, because I thought he got off to a great start on during the season. The first 3 games, he was flying. Pittsburgh. Who was it week 2? The L.A. Rams. He was in the backfield all day long. The New York Giants on Thursday Night Football, he was in the backfield all day long. Then he just kind of disappeared. Now he's back. So I'm happy with the way that front four, and I just thought the players played better. They tackled better. That was the thing. Steve Wilks can't tackle for you. And yesterday, they were a much better tackling team.
Yes, Hufanga had multiple plays that were just clean wrap-ups. The only missed tackles that stick out in my head were a couple of the cornerback missed tackles in one-on-ones against big, strong receivers like Christian Kirk. Yeah. Christian Kirk is a good player. You got to give credit to the other team. They get paid too. We act like they don't get paid. It just felt like their offensive line tried to go one-on-one across the board, and the Niners just beat them up.
Yeah, no, that Sideline Steve. That's what we're going to say.
Is that what we're calling him?
I took the call it on YouTube. Sideline Steve.
Sideline Steve Wilks?
Sideline Steve Wilks.
But no, he was like, I'm not trying to make it the end-all be-all, but he was like, they kept flashing to him, and he was in a better mood.
Right.
But obviously, they're up like 25 points, but also I could see him literally talking to Hufanga and Gibson and Ward and Lenore, and he was communicating back and forth. There is something there for that secondary, and he's a secondary guy.
No doubt. He is a secondary guy. Charvarius Ward played better. Look, this is a good win all around. Who's getting your game ball? 888-957-9570. Are the worries with Brock Purdy gone? Are your worries about Brock Purdy gone? Are your worries about the front four gone? Your worries about the defensive coordinator gone? Because I remember a couple years ago when the Niners lost 4 games in a row, and DeMeco Ryans, who's now a head coach in Houston, and they're winning games left and right. I mean, C.J. Stroud, that defense, wow. What's going on in Houston, Texas? I mean, whoa, they got something cooking out there. But Steve, when they lost 4 in a row back in 2021, there's a lot of chatter. I don't forget things. I had a memory like an elephant, Shasky. I don't forget sports tidbits. I don't forget stadium names. And I don't forget trash talk. And I don't forget chatter. I really don't. That's why I keep a chip on my shoulder. Keeps me going every day. Probably not the healthiest way to live, but you know what? We got to do what we got to do to get through a day. There's a lot of chatter about DeMeco Ryans. Oh, man, first-time defensive coordinator. Oh, man, we really miss Robert Saleh. Oh, man, DeMeco's not getting it done. He's getting overwhelmed. And by the end of that year, we're like, boy, DeMeco, don't leave. Don't take a head coaching job. We did it with Robert Saleh. There's a point in time where Robert Saleh's the weakest link. Oh, man, Robert Saleh this, Robert Saleh that.
Real quick on Saleh. He was the head of the worst run defense the Niners have ever had.
They also had no personnel.
I know. I'm just saying.
They had no personnel. You need talent.
I know, but they were historically bad in terms of sacks and giving up rush yards. So continue.
I mean, but they had no talent.
I agree.
You got to have talent.
But like, you gotta have talent. It was warranted because they were historically bad.
You got to have talent. You had no talent. You had no pass rushers, which is why they went out to go get D Ford and why they drafted Nick Bosa. But we did the same thing with Saleh, and we did the same thing with DeMeco Ryans. And it's like we're back in the future again. It's just going back in the time warp. And, oh, man, the defensive coordinator. Again, I look at these last 3 games during the losing streak, and I said, okay, Steve Wilks wasn't perfect. The blitz heard around the world against Minnesota before halftime was an all-time bad call. It's one of the worst defensive play calls I've ever seen in my life. I've been watching football since I was 5 years old. I'm 41 now. You do the math. But Cleveland, hell, they were on the field all day long because the offense had 8 straight 3-and-outs. Against Minnesota, they held the Vikings to 6 points in the second half and gave their offense a shot to win. Not once, but twice. And against Cincinnati, it was a 17-10 game early in the fourth quarter. Now, I get that it didn't look like 49er football. But my point is, Shasky, we do this every year with our defensive coordinators. Oh, man, we should go. And for now, thank the heavens they won and held Jacksonville to 3 because I don't have to hear about that crap ever again about firing a defensive coordinator midway through the year.
I get everything you're saying, but I think we should give more credit to them when it comes to the X's and O's. I thought his scheme yesterday was excellent.
No, my point is the X's and O's haven't been that far off.
Okay.
These guys have been in positions to make plays.
Yesterday was different than anything I saw all year in terms of what they were showing pre-snap versus post-snap. Now, I'm sure someone could break down the percentages of what they've showed. It just felt like they pressed everyone to the front right at the line, and then they were mixing and matching who was going in and who was not. And even Richard Sherman said they played way more man than they have in the past. And then the other part is...
I know, people wanted to play zone. Remember, people complained, they're playing too much man. Well, Crocker came on here and said, well, they played a lot of man against the Dallas Cowboys. Nobody was complaining. So we just...
But Bonte, they also made some slight personnel upgrades. When you take Isaiah Oliver off the field, that's an upgrade. When you add in Chase Young, that's an upgrade. Like, I know that Drake Jackson had a couple of sacks in one game. I'm ready to already call the fight. Like, Chase is a better football player than Drake Jackson.
No doubt. Well,
right? So that's an upgrade.
But you know what?
That's an upgrade. And so they did some personnel adjustments, and then I thought he was schematically better, and guys played better. It was a combination of all those things.